And here we go. Today we're going to talk about the new quizzes inside Canvas here. Let me back out here. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. The new quizzes in Canvas are something that have been around for probably 2 years now or so. But over time, and when they first came out, were pretty glitchy and not something that I was recommending to anybody. But they have really worked on improving those and making those a smoother interface and things like that over the last 2 years or so. So now some of the new features that have come out this fall, or I guess this summer, on them that make them to me worthy of sharing with you guys are that it will support Lockdown Browser, which was kind of my big holdup because I know lots of us, if we're going to do formal tests and think quizzes, we want to be able to use Lockdown Browser to be able to ensure that our students are, or reduce the likelihood that they're able to navigate to other websites and things like that during the test. So now Lockdown Browser is supported in the new quizzes. Another benefit to the new quizzes is just there's a lot more, they're a lot more, I don't know how I want to say it, like the user interface is a lot more enhanced for the student experience. And it will import all old quizzes into the new quizzes for you. So that way you don't have to recreate everything if you've already got things in here. So on a side note, as of right now, the old quizzes will still be valid, or will still work. That function is not going away yet. At some point in time, Canvas will retire it, but they haven't. It's at least a year away. So that will, I'll keep you updated on that as I know more there. So let's dig in here and look at new quizzes. So they used to live under assignments. Now they live in the quizzes tab. So if I click on quizzes here, and then I'm going to hit this plus quiz button. The first time I press this button, it's going to ask me which type of quiz I want to use. Whether I want to use classic or new. I'll have to hit new in order to get to the new ones. If I want the classic, I can hit classic. The way the new quizzes work, it actually works for those of you that are kind of a little more technical. It's an external tool inside Canvas. Canvas they own the external tool, but so it actually kind of embeds into an assignment like another external tool might be. So let's call this quiz Zoom quiz 730. So from today. I got to give it a name. Number of points here. This is going to be the number of points that you want the quiz to be worth when it's all done. This does not have to match the number of points that you assign in questions inside the quiz. So what I'm trying to say here is, so if you want the quiz to show up in the gradebook as 20 points, I put 20 points here. Now, when I'm building the quiz, maybe I only make 7 points worth of questions inside the quiz. It's going to mathematically do fractions and take it out 20 when it puts it in the gradebook. So whatever you put here is what it's going to be worth when in the gradebook. Your assignment group relates to those categories in Skyward for the grade passback. So we have test quiz or in-class work here in this course. So let's just call this test quiz. We're going to display as points. And I'm going to give it a due date because I want it to show up as a due date. And ultimately be able to sync to Skyward if I want to. So I'm going to save. When I hit save, it's going to launch the new quiz engine. And you'll notice it's a little more graphically pleasing than the old quizzes, a little more modern looking, I guess. It brought the title in for us here. I have an instruction section here that I can add for your instructions for the entire quiz. So I can give it some sort of instructions here. Welcome to today's quiz. Please answer the questions. I can type. Notice any interface here, I can upload media, add a table, insert media, links. I also have the math quill, which allows me to do math formulas. We'll look at that in a second. But all those things are options anywhere that I have a text box inside the new quizzes. So just kind of looking at our navigation window here in the new quizzes, we're in the build tab up here on the top. Next tab over is our settings tab. The settings allow us to have a lot more granular control of how the quiz experience is for our students inside the new ones than we did in the old ones. For example, we can shuffle questions and we can shuffle answers. In the old quiz, you really couldn't do this. So that's a benefit there if you want to shuffle it so that not everybody gets the same thing. The same questions in the same order. You can also, if you want to shuffle the questions, but maybe you don't want to shuffle the answers on all of them, you can, on individual questions, choose to shuffle the answers on that question as well. You can choose to have it show one question at a time. If you check the one question at a time, then you have the option of once they answer the question, so allow backtracking is going to allow them to go back, click back through the questions and re-answer them if they want to. If you do not want them to be able to go back once they hit their answer and click next, uncheck this allow backtracking button. And then once they've answered the question, they won't be able to go back to that question. Require a student access code. This is something that I always do when I'm doing a quiz because I want it locked down until I want the kids to take it. I don't want them to be able to access it started early if I'm truly doing it as a test or a quiz. If I'm doing it more of as a worksheet or something like that, then it's less important. But I usually set a passcode, access code here on the quiz. Time limit. You can set a time limit for the quiz. This is your base time for the quiz. So maybe it's going to be 30 minutes or something like that. This is probably one of those things that you want to think about if you're doing the quiz at home. And lockdown browser probably not as really valid because they could have another device. A time limit might be something that you want to take into account there. There are ways we can moderate that time limit for students with IEPs, and I'll show you that in just a second. Filter IP address, not something we're going to mess with here. A little more sophisticated, but basically it could make it so they had to take the quiz on campus so they could take it at home. But like I said, we're not gonna, that's something it would take some configuring. You can choose to allow calculator. Whether it's basic or scientific, this will show up for the whole test, or there's options inside the test to show it on specific questions if you want it on specific questions. If you want to allow the student to take multiple attempts of the test, there's options here to configure that. One thing that I always try to do when I'm setting up a quiz, whether it's an old or a new quiz, is I like to restrict the student's results view. Basically, I don't want Bethany sitting next to me. She clicks through the quiz really quick, and then now she knows all the right answers to every question because after the quiz is over, it showed her which one she got right and which one she got wrong. But then now she's going to turn to Johnny next to her and show Johnny the right answers. So Johnny now has all the right answers. You know, maybe it's somebody in class that just doesn't care about their scores, so they click through it so they get the right answers and they're going to share it with all their classmates. So I usually restrict student results view here. I'll show them there's different options here inside that. So for example, I might show them their total points awarded so they can see what score they got on the test, but I'm not going to show them what the questions were and what the responses were, which ones were correct and incorrect. So things like that to consider when you're setting up a quiz. Moving along the top up here, we also have the reports tab. Right now, I'm not going to show you anything in this because there's no way of taking this quiz, but you'd be able to see item analysis, see how many people answered each choice on the quiz, like on a multiple choice question, how many points scored there. It kind of gives you some graphs and things like that. Moderate in here, it's going to show all your students here. This is where we can add accommodations for a student. So for example, maybe Bitly here, our test student in this account, maybe he needs additional time or no time limit, or we need a multiplier. Like additional time, we can say he gets plus this much on whatever is there, no time limit, or we could say, you know, maybe he gets time and a half. So those are all options there. Also, in this manual moderate, if I need to give somebody an additional attempt, I can do that over here as well. Going back over to our build tab, looking down the left side over here, this left bar showing all the questions and different sections here. So here's your total points in the quiz that has happened. Here's your title block, and then here's your instructions. As I add questions, they'll show up here as numbers over here. As students are taking the test as well, this is where they'll see all the question numbers and they can click through questions. Once you've created items and you've saved them to an item bank, you can pull those and reuse them right here. If you've aligned things to standards or outcomes, as Canvas calls them, you can filter through those right there as well. At this point, I'm not sure anybody really has done much work in that section, but that's where that will be at. Up here in the top, we can also manage item banks if we have multiple. So now let's dive into some question types and looking at how we build one of these quizzes. To add a question, I click the little plus sign. If I wanted to pick something for question bank, I can grab it from right here.
Wade, question. Can the accommodations be global for a student, or is it per quiz?
There is a way to set them globally in the course for the kids. They'll always be that way, but I don't believe there's a way to in Canvas for us to set it so that that kid's accommodations apply just blanket across the board to every course they're in. I think it'll have to be set up once in each course. But I do know that it is possible to set it in the course once and then not have to reset it every time. Excuse me. Okay, looking at our, oops, I clicked off. Our insert content types here. These are our question types we have. Many of these are familiar, a common question type that we've seen in the past, you know, fill in the blank, essay, multiple choice, multiple answers, matching, things like that. Some of them function a little different in here. And so I'm just gonna run through these. I'm gonna run through the left side real quick, and then Bethany is going to show you some of them on the right side. And then I'm going to save the best for last, or what I think is the best for last, which is the stimulus down there at the bottom, and then we'll talk about that. So let's talk about categorization. Basically, this question type allows us to set up some categories. So maybe we, actually, let's look at how all these questions are structured. They are all gonna have a question title here at the top. This isn't something that really matters to the student, and you don't have to fill this question title in. But if you're making question banks and to reuse questions later, this question title can be helpful because it will give you information that you can see when you're looking at a whole list of questions pretty quickly. So we could call this living, non-living. So I'm gonna call it, okay. So I'm going to say categorize. Let me go back here for a sec. Yeah. So underneath here, it says add question stem. This is where you're going to type your question at, is what it's referring to here. So I'm going to say categorize the following items as living or non-living. Okay. So I'm going to set up two categories. I'm going to set up a living category and a non-living category. These can be whatever categories you want. If you need more than two, you click plus and you can add more categories. Then I list all the correct answers under living. So maybe dog, add another answer, cat, fish. I'll add tree. Maybe under non-living, rock, paper, iPhone, I don't know. Things that aren't living, okay. Down here, additional distractors. I can add additional things that don't actually belong under either category. This one's not really going to because everything's either non-living or living, so I can't, there's nothing I can make up there. This answer, just so that we have something to see in a second. We can show on-screen calculator. If this question needed a calculator, I could check that box there. If I, like I said, if I had outcomes aligned, I could choose this here and I could choose to align this question to a standard. If we were doing that, I could also choose to add it to a question bank as I make it. Here's where I adjust the number of points for this question. And then also here I can give it feedback. So when the students look at the results of the quiz, if they check the correct answer, I can give, you know, this, whatever I type in this box here is what they would see. If they provided an incorrect answer, then this would be feedback that they would see. Then, or no matter whatever answer they picked, this would be what they'd see if you wanted to provide that stuff, that information. So I'm going to hit done, and that question's done. So this is kind of how it'll look for the students. They'll end up with all of these little boxes for each choice in a line, and we'll preview this whole quiz here in a second, and they'll drag and drop them into the correct section. File upload, pretty simple on that question type there. And I give it a question or a question stem. Maybe I've done a math quiz here and I want them to upload pictures of your completed work. So I'm going to ask them to do that. maybe I don't even want this question to be worth any points because I'm not actually grading them on their work. I just want to be able to have a place for them to put it. So maybe I'll set that to 0 points. I could do that. The old quizzes did only allow you to upload 1 file. I'm pretty confident that this new one will allow you to upload multiple files inside this question. We'll try it in a minute when we test out this quiz. If I hit my plus sign again. Formula question type here. This one's kind of a new and interesting one and takes a little bit of reading to understand. Basically, what this is going to allow us to do is create a math equation and that it will then generate a different equation for each kid that takes the quiz, or multiple options for each quiz. So for example, if we look here, it says we're going to find variables by backticks. You know, for example, what is 5 plus x? So let's just use 5 plus x. So we're going to say, we're just going to use their example. What is 5 plus, then I'm going to use this little guy. So now down here, it identified x as a variable. And so I can say I want x to be somewhere between 0 and 10. I can say whether it has decimal places or not. Now I need to write this as a formula. So 5 plus x. And then if I generate options. Now it made up different math equations that could be. So x could be 8, then the answer would be 13. X could be 6, then the answer would be 11. 5, 4, 9, 3, 1, so on. I don't know how complex of equations it can do, but basically what it does is it generates a different question for each kid, so that way if you're doing a math question, you could make it so that not everybody's test is exactly the same. Said point values and things like that, options are there. You can also, and I'll just do it in the next question, it would have worked there too. Matching. You do have the option up here. We have what's called the math quill, and it's in all the text boxes here. When I click on that, I can do things like fractions. I could do 1 over 2. I can do square root. I can do, you know, Greek symbols. I can do operators. Things like that, greater than, less than, puts it under the square root, all those types of things. And then when I insert that in the text box, it's going to look funky. It's going to look like code, but when we preview it, it will show up correctly. So then in these, I can, looks like in these boxes, I can't do the math text on the matching, but other spaces we can. So maybe we're doing matching. Maybe we're going to go dog to puppy, cat to kitten. And if I don't want these others, I can just get rid of them. I can always add more. I can add distractors as well. You can see now that the equation, oops, clicked on it. That equation did show up as an equation there, not as a, not as kind of code. Multiple choice. It's your multiple choice. Not a lot there, but you will notice that in your multiple choice, I can use the math quill even inside the choices. So I could write a multiple choice questions that have math questions in them there. So I could say, what image is the sun? I could then even come in here and I could insert a, I could upload a picture. This isn't going to be the sun, but see what I have here on my desktop. I have a map of the United States. Let's upload that. So now that choice is a picture of the United States. Maybe this choice is going to be a, I have this random just color bar from Canvas. I can't put template. Maybe that's what that choice is. This is just a background that I have on my desktop. Okay, whatever. And we're just going to delete the other choice. I need to check which one's the correct answer. So maybe we're going to call this the sun. Same thing with calculators. This one does give us the option to vary points by answer. So for example, if I wanted to say, okay, if this question's worth, they get 2 points if they picked the completely right answer, but this one is pretty close, so they can get 1 point if they pick that answer. So I can, on a multiple choice question, choose how many points each answer is worth based off of the choices. So they could essentially get partial credit for an incorrect answer. Ordering. Ordering lets you give multiple events or multiple items and ask them to put them in an order. So for example, let's say place these events in order from oldest to newest. I'm going to label the top of it, so I want this to be oldest. Make the bottom newest. So maybe we say World War I, World War II. Maybe we say COVID-19. What order did those things happen in? And then you even have an option here to display answers in a paragraph. So maybe you wrote these things as like not a one-word thing, but maybe they were more of like a story or something like that, and you wanted them to flow together into a paragraph. It'll display it as a paragraph instead of just words. You want to play with if that's something you're interested in. So there is those. So let's, I'm going to preview this first chunk of the quiz for you, and then I'm going to pass it over to Bethany to talk about the other question types here. So if I preview this quiz, here are, let's look back at my categorization, how it works. I have living, non-living. I have things. I can drag and drop them up into the right sections. Oh, I want that one to move over there. Rock really goes over there. Fish is living, cat's living. It's drag and drop. The drag and drop does work on the iPad as well. Upload picture, it's drag and drop. I uploaded that image. We said we wanted to know if it would let me do multiple. Yes, it lets me upload multiple to that question. What is 5 plus 4? Let's say 5 plus 4 is 10. I know that's not right, but we're going to put it in. On my matching here, dogs go with puppy, cats go with kitten. Image is the sun. We'll pick the incorrect answer. What order do these things go in? Notice it jumbled them around, and I'm going to drag them to the order they should be in. I drug too far. There we go. World War I, World War II, COVID-19. Submit. Okay, I know we ought to see my answers. It doesn't matter. I'm just previewing it. There gives me, as a student, my choices. Remember, I didn't hide anything. I unchecked that box. So exit my preview there. And then any questions on any of those things so far? No, okay. I'll keep rolling here. If you have questions, make sure you get them to us. I know it's a lot of information and I'm just running through this. I'm going to pass it over to Bethany, and she's going to go over the next chunk of question types, and then we can answer questions.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead over to the same quiz that Wade was working in, and let me just refresh it, make sure everything's there. And we are going to add an essay. So essay is pretty self-explanatory. You can go ahead and put the prompt here, right, about your favorite type of food. And you can add more details about what you expect from their essay, and you know, make sure it has to be 5 sentences, whatever you would want to add on to that. Then you can decide with this options button. It's like this. You'll have to drop it down. You wouldn't need a calculator necessarily for this essay, but you can decide whether you have the rich content editor on there, which will allow them to change their font size, their color, add maybe a picture into it, that kind of thing. So you can decide whether you want that on or off. You can decide whether you're going to allow for spell check. If you want their essay to be a certain number of words, you can set a word limit. And also it'll show the kids as they're typing what their word count is. You can add some grading notes, just like some of the other questions where you can write something in there. And that is essay. And then we'll move on to fill in the blank. Okay, you can add an optional question stem right here, but down here where it says type a statement, select text and press enter to create a new blank. You can put a sentence there. So you could say, a dog is a mammal. Then you highlight the word that you want to be hidden from the kids. You want it to be a blank. So I'm going to highlight the word mammal and then hit enter. And then I am going to create, you can have an open entry where they just type what they think would go there. But because I don't necessarily think kids would just come up with mammal on their own, I might make a word box or a drop down menu. So this time I'm going to make a drop down menu. So I could add reptile. And then that way they have to choose what the correct answer would be. I'm going to go ahead and click done there. And I only want 2 choices. So I just got rid of that one. It was giving me an error message, but I only want 2 choices. Click done. The next type of question is a hotspot. This is kind of a fun one. You could say, no matter what it's, so what you're going to do is upload a picture and then you want the kid to find something on that picture and click on it. So if I wanted to say, find the root of the plant. And then I'm going to drag a picture that I already had of a plant. I can choose the hotspot shape from here. I'm going to choose a circle or oval. And I just kind of drag it over where I would want the kids to click. And then I'm going to click done. There we go. For some reason, it wanted me to do that twice. And so when we preview this quiz again, you'll see what that'll look like for the kids. Multiple answer. That is just where the kids can select more than one answer here. Select the words that describe parts of a plant. Roots, stem, leaves. I'll make this one really easy for them. Okay. So they would be able to click all of those, and you can also decide whether or not you're going to give them partial credit. So if they only answer maybe 2 out of the 3, or they have to exactly get all of them. So you can also click to shuffle the choices. Click done. All right, and then the next question type is numeric. So I could have a question, like a long division question. What is 397 divided by 3? And then you can have an exact response. I'm going to go ahead and hover over this question mark right here because it tells a description of the different kinds of responses you can have. So they can have an exact response, a margin of error where student responses are marked correct if they fall within the margin above or below the answer. There can be a range or a precise response. So that little question mark is there to help you determine what kind of answer you want them to have. And I also might want to say, like, so this would come out, I might want to say round to the nearest tenth. And so that answer, it comes out, I did look it up. I didn't calculate it before this. And then I'm going to click done. All right, one more, I think. True or false? This one's very easy. Flowers are living things. Piggyback off Wade's living things. True or false? So there's true. If I click options, that's only for an on-screen calculator. So I'm going to click done. And we'll go ahead and preview. And scroll down to past the ones Wade has already gone through. So this is the essay question. So you can see that because I allowed the rich content editor, it has these choices up at the top for the kids. If I chose not to have that, it would just have a blank text box. So they wouldn't have all these different options. So if you were maybe having a younger student type and you didn't want them to get distracted by all these choices, you might turn that off. Here is the drop down answer. A dog, or actually that's the fill in the blank. A dog is a, and they can choose. And for the hotspot, find the roots of the plant. So if they click somewhere in here, in the area that I highlighted all of the roots, so they can click somewhere there. Select the words that describe parts of a plant. So maybe I'll just click 1. And I'll put 122. Flowers are a living thing. True. Oh, okay. We're going to go ahead and submit. We are not doing well on our quiz at all. We may have to retake it. So I'll let Wade go ahead and take over to show you the last part of quizzes.
Okay, now that we've taken the quiz and we want to look at where does that show up and things like that. Let me see here. I think we should be able to see that test one. Oh, yes, I did forget the last question. You are right. Let's go back and look at that real quick. Quiz today. I saved the best for last and then I forgot about it. Okay, so you've seen all these different question types. The one that I held off on down here at the bottom is called stimulus. If you have are in a grade level where we've seen iLearn, this will probably look familiar to you. What stimulus allows us to do is add a stimulus to the left side of the screen. So that could be something like a video to watch, a reading article to read, a story to read, something like that. And then we can attach questions to that that are related to that and ask them to then answer those questions based off of that item. And it'll leave that item on the left side while they can answer the question on the right side. So let's say this is going to be reading 1. Please read this article and answer the questions. So maybe I have went to the web and I have found an article or something of that nature, and I'm just going to paste it in here. And here is the article. And I just pasted the text in there. And I'm going to say add. Now I've got the stimulus. They'll see this on the left side. Now I can attach a question to this article. Honestly, I think I might be able to. Oh, I can. Look at that. Look at this. We can drag and drop questions around if we need to reorder them. I can also now drag that question into the stimulus package or the stimulus response. So there's my stimulus, and then there's my question with it. I'm just going to go ahead and drag this other one down here instead of making a new one. Maybe I'll grab this other one too, throw it in there too. So now I've got 3 questions inside that stimulus. So let's look at what that looks like in preview. At the bottom. So what that looks like here. Notice on the left side, I would have that reading passage here, however long it was. If it was longer than the question, it would scroll independently. And then over here on the right side, I have the questions that go with that. So they scroll, I believe, between the 2 separately. So those questions are attached to that stimulus. Like I said, this could be text, this could be a video, whatever you would like there. So that is, I think, one of the most powerful tools that the new quizzes gives us is the ability to kind of build things that don't look like a traditional quiz. Also thinking through that a quiz doesn't have to be a quiz. I think sometimes we get, as educators in our terminology, we get locked into think a quiz has to be a formal assessment. Maybe a quiz is really just something that a student's going to complete. Maybe instead of us giving them a Word document with questions on it and they're going to upload that and send it back to us, maybe we build that as a quiz, or maybe we have a video we want them to watch and respond to. Maybe we build that into a quiz and we just assign that out as an assignment. If you're going to sync your grades back to Skyward, really all that matters is what category you pick, what that grading category is, grading group, assignment group, as to how it syncs into Skyward. So don't think about a quiz has to be a formal assessment. A quiz is just a tool to get the information from the students in an interactive format, more so than what an assignment might be. So just keep your mind open in that sense, that a quiz doesn't have to be a formal assessment. Like I said before, notice that our question types are over here, our numbers are over here. If I need to flip through quickly, I can click there and get to the different questions. How do I see the results of the quiz? They would show up in your grade book, and you can also edit them in SpeedGrader. Let me return here and let's go home. And I'm going to enter student view real quick, and I'm going to take this as the test student. I got this. I didn't publish the quiz, just like I did yesterday. Go publish that quiz real quick. Publish. Student view. Zoom quiz. I'm going to begin it. Like I said, I'm going to just click this real quickly. Don't care if he's right. I'm going to leave him out. I'm going to upload an image. I just want you guys to be able to see what it looks like. Submitted that. Okay, whatever. I know I didn't answer question 6. That's fine. I didn't do very good. Okay. I'm going to leave student view, go back to me being teacher me. Leave student view. Okay. Now if I go to my grades, I see test student here. Here's the Zoom quiz that we took. I click in here and I hover over and I can open that quiz up in SpeedGrader real quick. Once I'm in SpeedGrader, I can flip between kids. Now I see this quiz here. Notice I got 6.67 out of 20 was my score on this quiz. I can adjust any question I need to here. I can give them points if I needed to. Here I can see the picture they uploaded. If I want to say, yep, that's right, good job, I can give them the points there. Granted, that was a 0 points quiz, but it's there. Down here as I'm grading, if I want to be like, well, maybe I want to give them a half a point here. I can give them a half a point there on that question.
Quick question, Wade. Can you tie a rubric directly in here for the essay question, or would you have like a separate one?
I don't know.
For sure.
sorry, whether or not it'll let you do a rubric. I don't think it will, but I can look into that. So here's the rubric, or here's the question that's waiting for me to grade on this. I do think on this I needed to hit this regrade button after I. Oh no, cancel, that wasn't what I wanted to do. So if I found out as I was looking through this test that maybe I had messed up a question, I can choose to hit regrade and I can pick a different right answer and I can click regrade and I can award points and things like that if I needed to adjust a question. I'm just gonna cancel that out. So let's go down here, let's give this essay. If I want to give them all the points, I can just hit the check mark. If I give them no points, I can hit the X and it'll mark it wrong, or I can put in a custom point value there. So it tells me that was correct. And then down here at the bottom, I'm just going to update my score. And then my score up here should update if I actually added points to it. I did. It's 5.5 out of 12. So here in a second, this 6.67 should update, but we have to refresh to get it to actually display the update. Yep, now it went up to 9.17. So now that kid's score is updated. If I go back and look at the grade book, that score would be updated and reflected in my grade book there. If I go back into SpeedGrader, if I had another student, I could just flip to the next student using my arrows up here in SpeedGrader, just like I would for an assignment, and load the next kid's quiz, grade the things I need to grade, and so on. Let's go back out here. Let's look at the last thing I have at this point is to show you, and I need to go to my course here. If you already have quizzes built in the old quizzes, or classic quizzes as Canvas is calling them, and you want to migrate them over into a new quiz format and edit them there, I'm in my course that I worked in yesterday that I imported content into. And so I've got old quizzes in here that I had made before. Notice these icons here, the rocket ship is quizzes, or is the quizzing tools here. If it is a solid rocket ship, like it's filled in here, that's a new quiz. If it's a white, not shaded rocket ship, that's an old quiz. That's how they've differentiated between the two quiz types here. So for example, if I wanted to take, I'm trying to find something that's not huge, but I don't see anything I just haven't already done. So this is like a 15 questions. So if I took this 15 question point here, if I come to the 3 dots over on the right side, I can choose to migrate. And that's going to migration in progress. And that's going to then show up down here at the bottom as a new quiz once it finishes. So there it is. That was an old quiz. Now it's migrated to a new one. When I click it, it opens up into the new quiz interface with my questions that I had in it from before. So that's how we can bring over a question or a test or a new one. I'm still, I was trying this morning, but I couldn't get it to work on question banks. When we import those and migrate them over, I didn't have one that was functioning this morning. So I don't have an answer on that, but I will work on that in getting how do we migrate question banks over. I think that is everything I had on my list. Beth, anything I forgot? More questions?
I don't think so. I think we have a couple questions we'll talk about when we finish up. So I will go ahead and pause the recording and then we can run through questions or anything like that. Okay.